Hi guys, episode 6 of uh Rensomer Multimedia, and it made me think of recently I thought of how I've been on this trek helping a man out with some stuff, but I kind of had to cut the leash and let him go because it was becoming too onerous on myself. This man came to me at the church, and he was homeless, and he ended up having two storage units full of stuff. And if you follow my Facebook, a lot of the stuff that he's trying to sell and clear out is on the Facebook page for sale, so you can try and sell that. And I might contact him back to see if we can establish a better connection in order to do that instead of what's currently going on. But I think we need a housing bill and a sustainable housing for most people in the country that are citizens, especially if you're a former a veteran or a former military person or official or something like that. And it should be up to your pay grade and all that, but everyone should have some form of fashion, some form of housing in this country that is kind of, theirs. Whether we start like a savings bill towards that for kids at a certain age that, offloads if one passes away into the accounts of their high school friends or their loved ones or something, kind of like a Gerber baby account or something. We have to establish that, and also a form of fashion of some sort of way to build smart homes that are like homes that are up to snuff and easy to upkeep for the general person, the general population, not just, an architect like myself. And I think if we focus on housing and less on some other aspects of things, people would be promoting the family, love life, stuff that they didn't think will come to fruition based on things they didn't think were possible before, as they kind of are for me. But it should all be in the bounds of, the foreground of like what's available to us based on what our parents want for us and stuff like that. And I think hopefully that means whatever. You get the chance to live your best life, and I think there should be consequences for people that choose to not protect life the correct way. I think there should be merit-based selection of prospects in employment and how people work, because then people will think, well, yes, I'm getting told to do something the correct way, instead of, charity is charity, but I think if people were all considered doing things based on merit and not based on whatever it's got to be skill driven. It's got to be driven on not by how you look. Almost the color, I'd almost say, like, you should have a independent interview with somebody in college who's never seen your picture before, and then they see you in person and they say, yeah, you fit the bill, we like you. And it shouldn't be based on, well, this or that. And then if they are this, like a certain background, that they should get bumped ahead. Should be based on the skill set and how agreeable they are to it. So that's merit-based scholarship, I guess, or a merit-based scholar. And I think, but a lot of people disagree with that, and they think certain people should be promoted, and they do it at Harvard. I'm not really into that. I don't really need Harvard education to do really well. I kind of think a lot of the things I do are based on Harvard level stuff, but I do it independently of them. So without accolades, without name recognition, you can still make your life extremely sought after. I guess the question is, as someone who's willing to be president of the United States, or someone who's willing, like I am, and I'm old enough now, someone who's willing to, and I heard Aaron Rodgers is being considered for VP for Kennedy Jr. or whatever, not sure his name, but the Kennedy candidate, the third party candidate. I wonder if, I think he's very well spoken and very good on camera, but I wonder if he's politically or well read enough and skilled enough to bring enough to the table. So not everyone's going to be boots on the ground like as good as I have been in recent years. And now that I've done less video gaming, I've been doing more production wise, whether it's this podcast or artwork and books, and my fashion and eating better and cooking better, cooking all sorts of stuff and enjoying myself, and the fish fry at work, or the fish fry at church, and being helpful at church to a lot of young people. A lot of people need a lot of help, but the question is who knows the best? Who knows the heartache, who knows, who has the skill level and the heartache, who has the skill level and the ability to switch it around. I think 3/4 to maybe more of the 85% of the country, 85% of the states would vote Republican or more on a presidential and run up like other kind of election, midterm election basis, if voter ID were available to every state. And I think that has a huge impact on local, state, and federal elections, as we see in officials that end up being in charge. So I'm calling for that. I'm calling for somebody to make that authorization to talk about it, to do a bill, to, it should be a bipartisan thing. The Democrats will never go for it, but it shouldn't even be argued about. It should just be, how do we get that across? Like, you should have a convention of sorts, like because currently the law is not applicable to what the country needs for natural born citizens, being that voters that shouldn't be able to vote in the election do, and that's just a natural fact. So I think if you give a lot of thought to this, I mean, there's got to be the idea that if the people that are in charge keep getting what they want, it's on both sides of the table, by the way. How is a guy like Greg Abbott not running for president? He's about as good as any politician has ever been, or Ted Cruz, but he's young. But I might be partial by the Texas politicians, but they come from my strain, and I feel like the people that get close to me get infected and get damaged goods when, it's like the mass horde is destroying this idea that, the military people shouldn't be able to govern an athlete has to look a certain way. Certain people should have money and certain people don't. Certain people should date certain people or date at all. I mean, what does it take to get a date around here? It's almost ridiculous how hard it is for me to find a woman, despite how hard I've tried and how eligible I am, despite what unconfirmed rumors have said. So, taking action, what, like, subsects of bigger circles of power, like I would say like the Knights of Columbus, where strong men have power in these circles, and guys might listen a little more. I might get shirked a little bit, but I know that this is the right thing for this election right away, and it can be implemented pretty quickly if we really put our pedal in the metal into a lot of voter machine construction and then putting them in place in each state that doesn't have them, and then the coding and all that, and teaching it. It makes sense because people are missing out on a lot, and what does it take to get certain rights? And we shouldn't be stripped of basic rights, and that's what's happening right now on a mass basis. Not just Republicans, but the Democrats that are think that vote Democrat in a certain state, or Republicans in a state that ends up being Democrat. It affects a lot of people. So any illegal votes, it could be thousands of votes in a state at a time. It could be coordinated. It could be voting with dead voter populations. It could be voting with fake IDs and stuff like that. If they're not using IDs, they're just talking about a address. Like, it could be a warehouse and they say that's my address, and they could be living out of a car, and then they end up voting in that election. So how can we verify someone is a citizen of the United States? There's no gene or way to say someone's face. You have to have a state issued ID or a passport or whatever to dictate that. And if you don't dictate that the way like the state of Texas does and some other states do, then you're never going to be able to get a true elections tally. Guys like me who've done all the right things will never get elected. This affects primaries. This affects so the people that we nominate, it affects the people we nominate, and it affects the general election. So it's a big game. It gets tilted and changed all the time. And a lot of times the people that are in charge are being controlled by foreign entities that are just funneling money out into foreign waters. That's what they talk about, offshore entities, offshore accounts. It's really grossly negligent on their part, but they're rich in eating steak a couple times a week, or the best kind of lobster and all that stuff, and they get to be with any woman they want to be with, and their sons and daughters are plenty taken care of. So it's true that certain people can cheat, and they do. Even people that are citizens of the United States, they try to do it here in Texas, but they won't. And I don't need to sit at a voter poll to keep it from happening. But I found out that all you need to do is have an address, and you can vote in an election. And someone can say that name. Like, someone can have multiple names registered at an address, and then Joe Blow can come up and vote in that election and vote for anybody. So, and then that's whatever was selected before. So there's a lot of catches there, and it's really obscure how people can think that is it safe? Are we safe in our own rooms? Are the people that we work with safe to work with? Is it safe when we go on a trip? Is it, if you're not physically strong, what really is safety? If your memory lapses easily, are you physically safe? If you're unable to understand basic instructions and then they still try to hurt you, are you safe? So that's kind of like the consequences of living anywhere in the world until we lock up the United States border fence and voter ID wise. And hopefully that will change the house of cards, so to speak, by blowing it away. And people will get merit-based selection, housing for qualified people, and that'll keep them stable for a long enough time that they can get on their feet, and we can have stages. It's kind of like ranking in a Call of Duty game. I mean, you can give a 16-year-old, their own house if he's got a girlfriend, or somebody a house if they're young, as long as we have them all built and ready to go with all the kind of basic amenities like plumbing, showers, bedrooms, living rooms, Wi-Fi, stuff like that, and working air conditioning if they're wherever, and they can work themselves up. Now, if you're gonna make bad choices, then you stay in that starter house. Like if you're gonna smoke or drink too much. I'm not a huge drinker, but I think drinking is not that bad. But smoking cigarettes might cause some trouble. There must be a scoring system in which someone should, and it's kind of already the case through the economy, but some people still accumulate too much wealth based on habits that are bad that feast on others. And that's the problem with today's America. Thank you. Follow us on Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Instagram, and YouTube.